Nice.
Okay, and we're in. Let me make my mic. Um. Okay, so there's our squad.
Very
I
nice.
think we're ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it. Conquer this wasteland.
Wasteland's a dangerous place. Yep, cool. I kind of want to do rookie from what I did before. I'll let you decide, rookie or seasoned.
I think a season.
Okay.
I guess season's like normal, I guess, right?
Yeah, I season was difficult for me, but we're gonna try it. At worst, this is a
Yeah, we can do it.
one episode series.
Depending on if I die off or not, it could be over very early for me.
I mean, that's basically, literally, I think the first combat I died when I test this out.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be interesting. So I guess you probably need a group of 4.
It wasn't even that, it was just the impact. The hits and stuff. I don't know why, but the enemy could keep hitting me, but not the other way around.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's how I kind of. Like I said, all I did was like the character creation, and I was like, okay, this game's got potential. I'll dive into it at some point.
Oh, this might be
Story.
problematic. I might be asking what's in the lower right corner as we go. Okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
There we go.
You're smart ass is a lot.
Yep.
Ooh.
Do you want to respond or do you want me to?
That's interesting.
Did Ace die? Be happy to be given the opportunity. So
Pretty much, I'll let you speak first, and then if you don't want to reply, then you just pass the option to me.
well,
Pretty much, I guess
well, I guess
hopefully...
I could say goodbye. Just be like peace.
Well, I mean, just for the sake of how fast we can get through it, I guess it makes sense. Because like I said, I'm already running off of like a 10 or 15-second delay, anyways. So I mean, it's just one of those. If there's nothing,
but if you don't
want to
wait
say,
for it to speak, you should be able to respond rather quick. If you read instead of listen,
I want to listen.
Okay.
I'm a loser. Now, from what you've played, is there all the NPCs voice actors, or is it just certain
as far as
ones,
I've
just
noticed,
like
all of them all.
That's nice.
Now they're all like the text above was not spoken, so they're all bits of text that won't be spoken, but a majority of it is.
That's nice.
Let's ask about Ace.
Yes, let's ask about Ace. Or if anything, you can confer with me, and then you could speak for us, because your charisma's higher than mine anyways. No.
I'll let you choose what you want to investigate.
I guess we can go investigate the signal.
You want to ask about the signal?
Let's ask about the signal.
Okay, I'll let you ask about the signal.
Yes. Now see... nice. Happy to be given the opportunity, sir. But I guess y'all were ready.
I think we're going to ask about the repeater units.
Sounds good. Interesting.
I think I'm good. You want to ask?
I'm good. I'm good. We know what we gotta do. Let's do it.
Right.
Right, it's good for me.
There's actually no option of just let's do it, so I'll ask about the mission.
Well, it says B for goodbye.
I guess we could just leave it here.
And just bye. We're gonna go find that signal.
You want to?
Sounds good to me. Let's do it. Wow. Okay. Fine. Listen to what he has to say. Fine. It sounds like the Doc from frickin' New Vegas. I just got done pulling that bullet from your head. Here's a mirror. And so he's gonna ask everything we need to find out. Just go in, just run through all the audio gear there. Let him just be happy. Pretty much like the moment he's done talking, just like cue the next one up just so we can go ahead and just like.
Well, I'm only hearing it through your audio.
Oh. Okay, that's cool then. So you can at least know what, which is interesting. Because you have yours muted, so you have it looping through. Oh, okay, that's cool.
I think I'm gonna ask about the logbook though.
Yeah, go ahead and just like everything he wants to tell us, just ask. He apparently wants to tell us all this information as a little bundle of info. And then like this sequence is only already making me wonder, is this how the first one ended maybe? So that's the reason why we're in this situation maybe? Because it's just really weird that this is how the game would start.
You want to ask any?
Nothing in particular. Well, just go ahead and just ask both of them. Just go ahead and just find out what we need to know. Okay, so why even give that as an option? Psychopath. Like, my brain was like, okay, we'll go find the signal, we'll get the signal, and then we'll come back to you. And then you can give us more information. He's like, no, I want to tell you everything now. And then you ask about it. I can't tell you that until you get what I need. Like, you're so angry. Thank you. That's a boogie. It's the gravy train rolling.
I'm gonna grab the shovel. I'll be Shovel Man. Or do you want to be Shovel Man? Actually, you got a pistol. I'll take the shovel.
That sounds good.
You already got
But as I was saying before, Captain Ranger over there cut me off. I had that concern because I know I think it was New Vegas. Like, you had to kind of put some of your points towards gunplay just because of that first encounter.
Oh no, I had two gun players on my first encounter.
Oh, like I was saying, just because you said how much harder.
I had one that already was leveled up a couple. I thought it was. I guess there isn't. Okay. Like, it was just the damage output. For whatever reason, my team just kept missing literally attack after attack. I think I understand the system a little bit better now on like how the percentages work. Oh, you're up there.
I think coordination plays part of it. I think. Unless like it doesn't apply like melee strikes or something. Desert Ranger scarred by spotless combat armor stands attention before you.
I don't have either of those options. I can't kiss ass or hold ass. So we're just gonna say goodbye.
Goodbye. We're not getting through there. And then you go back and talk to the ranger. I said I need those pops. Like, they won't let me through the gates, sir. Pretty lady. She wants to trade. I guess ask her from me or ask for me if you want to. I said just because you have more charisma, it's kind of like one of those weird things where like, I'd be coming to you like,
I
hey,
can
ask that
tell you,
question for me.
I can tell you how the charisma works. You're not gonna affect it if you ask. I'll tell
Okay,
you if you
I guess ask
will.
what the need is. Okay. I just didn't know if it was like one of those crazy things like Fallout where you get different audio dialogues based on your
You do,
how your
but
stat build is.
this isn't like gonna hide the fact from you.
Gotcha. Or is it kind of one of those things where it'll give you the option as long as someone's in the party that can do it,
No,
right?
we actually encountered one. It didn't pop up the little dialogue, but we encountered one, and I chose the best of the options.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yep, I'm good.
You're good.
Nothing for me now.
I think I'm good. So I'm saying no
Good.
you. Cool. Bye bye.
That was a macho time ago.
Yes, I know how the camera controls work. It's fine. You want to grab the can, or you want me to grab the can?
I'll grab it.
You grab it? Okay.
I'll grab the can.
Oh, I still got hit!
Shiny tin can. Yeah!
Didn't hit me in the
Okay.
butt, it hit me in like the stomach.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, my
you?
person was like, I'm gonna prevent you.
You're next. I want to pet the goat. Ting!
I'll use
Eh.
the shovel here.
Use the shovel.
Yep, I know. Scraps basically are caps. I'm gonna give
Nice.
you the shotgun, and I'll take the junk.
Necklace with a metal symbol.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. More rocks to dig through.
Mm-hmm.
Yay!
I'll take the scrap, and I'll take the junk. I haven't found a use for the junk yet.
And you probably use it for, not building, like,
You have ammo.
like crafting and stuff like that, maybe.
Yeah.
Good for checking your makeup.
Yeah. Gotta check my makeup.
You can't check that barrel back over there.
The blue one?
That blue barrel we went through. Yeah, that blue one. You can't interact with it.
No, there's no interaction to it.
Okay, I don't know if you could like reach in there and like find like.
I can't even attack
there's
it.
Or. Fights barrel falls over on you and murders you. No. Uh-huh.
Babies.
We're just babies.
Babies, us?
I guess I'll ask about General Vargas.
Okay. Any more questions? Hello? I think we lost a party member.
Yeah, we're good. Ask about Thrasher.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my controller turned off. I forgot that if I'm not like wiggling the sticker or something on, and it's gonna end up turning off on me.
Mm-hmm.
Then when you speak, it comes to my TV. I'm like, oh my god, it's off.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wow, poor guy.
We're about to join them.
Nice.
Any more questions?
Nah, I'm good.
Alright, I'm good.
Been swimming across more as like an expositional dump than anything. It's nothing like nothing quest-wise that we need to know. Oh, there you go. Okay. Let's do it. I thought we'd bring her along.
Yay, we got a new follow.
New party member.
Okay.
Awesome.
I think that's pretty much all we can do in this
So I
area.
wonder if you like talked over like a full party, if you would like be able to disband a party member to add her to your lineup,
Well, if you
or
look,
if she becomes.
if you look, we can
a fed.
actually have like 6 in total.
That doesn't sound bad. The good thing is I'm not seeing like a hunger or a water gauge, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to like manage resources and keep everyone in the party, you know, fed and hydrated.
I can dig. Dig.
Nice.
Dig. Some scraps. I'll give the bullets to you. I'll keep the junk.
Yeah, more bullets for me. Unless every time I've been blinking, you've been like slowly like feeding and hydrating yourself without notifying me. Like hotkeying, you know, like feed, hunger.
No, I
Hey,
ported.
we need bolt cutters.
I don't got any. You guys got the gun.
I don't know. You wanna go back and see that other lady to see if she's selling bolt cutters by chance?
Sure. Whoa. I was just in the
Oh,
building
yeah, I
for
see
a
that.
while.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. Water. It looks clean.
Draw
You
water
could top
for
up
that
the
can.
canteen here. Okay.
Yep.
Top it off.
If you'd like. Yay. Nice.
I didn't even notice that there was anything. Is that a little shiny thing? Yeah. Okay. Let's talk to you. And the black and one wants to trade.
Mm-hmm.
Got some hide armor, leather
Clothing,
jacket,
guns,
radiation
another shovel, but I don't think
shield.
we. Ooh, how much for that? It's $200. We don't got enough money for that.
Yeah, we only have $70.
Mm-hmm. This is all she's selling. I guess those are wooden planks, right?
I don't
Yeah,
know
nail
if
boards.
that's all she's selling. She's selling some ammo.
What are those? Oh,
What's
this for
what?
the dynamite. If you go up, I think like go back one, up one or two more. Unless you're selling dynamite.
Yep, TNT.
TNG. Huh.
$50 TNT.
I could throw it, duck. I don't know if I'm wasting $50 to try, but I was like, you know, I wonder if you could throw the TNT at that gate and see if it'll bust it.
Got some ammo here.
I wonder, I'm not seeing it showing our current ammo count, what kind of sucks.
I can check real quick if you want.
I'm just trying to like scan the screen to see if there's like, is there, I'm not seeing it maybe, or?
I'd have to leave and button.
No, we're good. I was just wondering, because I don't know how many bullets I got to spawn with, if ammo would be recommended, or if you need a weapon or something.
You have
38, 28 shots.
28. 28 shots of 38.
I don't know how combat works, so I'm guessing that's going to be good right now.
And she has 20 shots of 5.56.
I guess you got a decent weapon that.
Secondary. Okay, and talk again. Black one wants to trade. Okay, so we were going through. She has a figurine, if you want +1 to animal whispering. And she has a mag light.
A scope.
Nope, a scope.
No, we don't need it.
And
The figurine's interesting, but I don't know. I don't think we need it.
has,
Unless you would recommend getting it because you know we're going to be coming into like a group of animals up ahead or something. But.
No. She got some useful items, but I don't see any that we should buy necessarily, and no go.
Now, is it RPG combat, or is it like all live action whenever you cross someone that wants to
it
murder
goes
you?
into tactical RPG.
Okay.
Okay, I think we're good. I didn't see anything that I personally want. I don't think you want anything.
I don't know if you experimented with it. Is it benefit of having more than one shovel, or just one shovel?
No, one shovel is good.
The only benefit I noticed would maybe be faster dig times. Into the wasteland we go.
Into the wasteland.
Let's go. Dream team.
So this is where dehydration comes in. You can't really dehydrate in a city, but you can if you're traveling.
Gotcha. This is Ranger Team Echo. Copy. Yeah, whoever you want to, if you want to speak or I speak, it no matter. We're gonna fight over the radio. It's interesting.
I don't know what the first option is. Oh, radio or dispatcher. Do you want to
Radio,
ask either one?
Dispatcher.
Dispatcher?
Mm-hmm. I guess I'll ask about the radio. Because if not, if you hit quit, I'll probably say, no, you want sure you don't know about the radio? So I'm gonna tell you anyways. It's an interesting perspective to look at it in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yep.
We're the A-team.
I'm going to check the map. That's on the map. Nope, that's that. That's there we go. So we need to head east.
East.
West.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the map's
East.
upside down.
I thought you said west.
So.
Don't jinx it. So you just drag it along the map.
Yep.
We're taking in radiation.
No, we're about to take in radiation. We're gonna dodge it.
Okay, I don't know if it does that thing where X marks the spot.
Radio tower.
Hey, we found it.
Yep. Let's enter.
Yeah, it's under that radio tower. We're adventurers. We gotta find some tracks, he says. Yes, we copy. If we could be those guys just not replying, make them kind of worried. Like, oh god, we lost another group. I guess we're looking for whatever's gonna murder us. Some blood. That's not good. My tracks looks like they're going over there to the left. Oh. Could you be dead with them?
Ooh.
Plants. No, we found his badge.
I think we should give it to Angela.
Yes, yes, clearly.
Hey, XP!
Nice.
I have no clue, Angela. How about you tell us? So you said left?
I say we go left. It's a cactus. There's a person. Oh no. I say we just pay the money unless you think we can take them, but I don't know how that's gonna go well.
I could try some smart ass, or
Well, I think that'll probably not getting a shot of immediately. I don't know
Angela could try some hard ass.
No, it's I don't know. I don't know, because if it backfires, like I said, we're gonna be in a situation where we could probably potentially just get shot up immediately, and I don't.
I'll use some smart ass.
I don't like progression. Okay. Nice. Okay, it worked. Smooth.
Cactus.
Yeah. Nice. I think you broke his poor little brain.
Let's give you those.
Did we just loot? Did we just walk into their camp and start looting their stuff?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if it did that thing that like Fallout does where it'll glow red or something. Like you just don't touch their stuff. Like it's our stuff now. We live here. It's our home now.
It's all front yard. They're backyard.
What's that? Examine it.
Splattered with blood, the console is connected to your radio tower transmission with cardboard together connection of wires.
Interesting.
Yep.
No, the radio's going off.
logbook paper. Smeared with oil and dirt, but still legible. Yeah, I'll keep it. Uh-oh, we found some ace notes. How did he get in here? He didn't die quietly. This looks like a tower, but I don't see the entrance thing. Odd. Uh-oh. I think somebody internet cut out again.
Sorry about that. I'm back.
Welcome back.
That's kind of awkward. I'm back.
Let's see. Metal leg. Angela, want to say anything about it?
Histogram metal.
Nope.
Look at all this XP!
Mm-hmm. Field medic. You have field medic. You'll get to keep that.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh.
Pocket medic packs.
The M2.
That sounds like a sniper rifle.
It's a heavy weapon.
I just grab it. I mean, worst case scenario, we just went onto it.
Do you want it?
I won't use it, but I mean, I'll hold on to it.
I'll use it at least. Or you could give it to Angela.
If she's got the heavy weapon skill, sure, why not? But I know I don't have that skill yet, so it's not worth me.
She's the most likely. I can check real quick. Skills for Angela. Nope, she has no combat skills.
I think she's a level 7.
Rifle. She has web smithing.
They said technically it's a heavy weapon, so I mean it's not technically sniper. But yeah, she doesn't even have that skill either, so I mean yeah, we'll just keep going.
There it is, heavy weapon.
She technically got no gun skill.
Yes, she does. Assault rifle. And blunt weapons.
Oh, I see. You're right. Okay, I see. For some odd reason, I'm looking over there to the right, and I'm like, I don't see it. You're right. I see though. You're right.
Yeah. She just doesn't have heavy weapon. Well, he can hold on to it then. She's better than both of us.
What's CON? Is that confidence, I'm guessing?
I don't know. Go find out if you want, but I don't know. You want to enter the cave?
Do we need to, though?
Don't need to.
If you want to go in the cave, we can, but I don't know.
We keep exploring.
I thought we were trying to... Nah, I guess we can. I don't know if that's where we need to be going, though. I thought we had to find the... Well, we found the radio tower.
Yeah, we did find
we found the badge.
We found the badge. We found the leg. We found his logbook.
Can you scan his logbook, or is it more like just a physical
Let me see.
Object in the game?
I have his logbook. Let's see what I can do with it. Yeah, we can read it. August 10th.
Fell in the snake squeezing cellar from rural nomad. Wanted ranger protection on his way to Blurred. Asked of him to share his water, but I wish the boring son of a bad would shut up.
Son of a bad ward.
Well, I said just separable, so obviously, clearly he was like, "Nah."
That's just an official.
So nothing useful. That's good to know.
Yep.
I guess we can go into the cave.
Go in the cave.
I don't see how, like, his badge was lost over there in the bush, his legs in the village, and then, like, no one... I mean, can you talk to the people in there to see if they maybe seen where he went, maybe?
Yeah, we could talk.
Let's go talk to them and see if they have seen, by chance.
I think the village is down this way. Yep, there they are. Anyone you want to talk to? Ooh.
Yeah, but really just if it'll bring up a keyboard.
Another crate we can open.
Any more boxes. More medical packs.
Yeah, I don't see any dialogue choices for you guys.
What happened to like the leader guy that like who was at the front gate?
There's some dead people.
Examine, I guess.
Okay.
Hey man, if you can like loot their corpses, I mean.
A man gutted with a pointed end of a rail bowie knife.
Hmm.
Oh, radio.
Let's just report back. Not that we really have a choice. We just say goodbye.
Bye
I don't talk to you right now.
Woman couldn't pay the raiders at the tour and scrap. She paid in blood. Matching bullet wounds bisect in an unfortunate wastelander's head. The slug went in and out cleanly, so at least it was a quick death.
That's good to know.
Good thing I was a smart ass and was able to respond to them appropriately. Spoke their language. I think this is the front of the town, right? Yeah. Oh, we could talk to him.
Yeah, it's just saying we need to talk to see if they've seen anyone.
Huh?
Oh, that's all he says, huh? He doesn't like you.
Nope, he's just saying how.
Well, his name's Mumbles, so I'm not surprised.
Nope, there's another one. Do you mind? Ooh, I'm getting messages. Where are all these messages that were accidentally still up and everything? Okay, cool. Here's just a core message. My stream's healthy, right?
Yeah, everything's coming through great for me.
Oh no, I wasn't talking about that stream. I was
Oh.
talking about the YouTube stream because it just showed a sudden drop in viewers, and I was like, whoopsie. I set off the alarm.
Oh no. We're going to die, aren't we? He's gonna go investigate. That's funny.
Whoopsie. I'm sorry, dude. He doesn't care anymore.
Yeah.
Mumble,
Okay, well, I didn't know
Mumble
if there was
said
an audio.
yes. Maybe we need to talk with her. Oh.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know if it'd give you a different dialogue tree, but...
It seems to be. Yeah, I don't know. Could just be random and you just had the bad luck of the same random choice each and every time.
I mean, I guess we have to go in the cave next, I'm guessing. That's kind of where it seems to be leading us.
Here, there's another cave here.
I guess we can investigate.
Into the cave we go. Okay.
I'm guessing those yellow bars are our XP, I'm guessing.
I don't know, I can tell you
Under
what
the pictures.
I can tell you what our... Yeah. So, you're about
That's what I was
halfway
thinking.
there. She's almost nothing.
You're 2/3.
And I'm 2/3. Do we want to examine, or do we want to admire? Or examine?
Well, let's examine, I guess, and see if we can grab whatever's on the ground.
Toaster is in need of repair. We don't have toaster repairing skills.
Here.
Statue.
I guess my next level up
we
will be
got a
toaster repair.
skill point. The corpse of the boys
nice.
and mice in various stages of mutation have been murderously laid out. Limbs and half torsos placed with ritual precision, and a complex pattern encircling the statue of a cat.
Nice. Cool, I guess put my point towards toaster repair.
Okay.
And then I'll repair the toaster.
Oops. We got one skill point. Let's
Or-
see.
I'm probably not getting shocked and I'll probably die that way, but that'd be kind of funny to watch, wouldn't it?
Alright. This GUI is equally complex as Fallout. Okay. Ooh, there's 2 mystery skewers. But you want toaster repair. I think that's in knowledge? Yeah.
Yeah,
Costs
knowledge
2
was in the
skill
other
points.
tree. Really?
Yep.
Wow. That's right. Well, I'm good then. Oh, yeah, that's right, because my thing... Well, yeah, that's right. Well, that'll be good, because whenever I level up, I only gain 1 skill point anyways. I'm guessing. I'm guessing you guys gain 2, maybe? When you guys level up?
Everything in that cave.
In a notebook somewhere, we need to mark down the toaster in first ever cave ever. I wonder what happens when you repair it. Like, what would you get the scrap from it, maybe?
I don't know. I've never repaired.
Or we would just have a toaster to make toast, I guess? I mean,
toast is a very delicious meal to have.
how do we know it works? Is it like a wireless toaster? I don't know. How do we know it's broken if it's not hooked up? If it's sparking without it being plugged in, I mean, I guess we'd have more concerns and more questions, wouldn't we?
You want to enter this cave now?
Sure, why not? Let's get mauled by some wolves, alright?
Okay. I'm trying to see if there's any shiny things.
Shiny. Shiny.
Yeah, there is a shiny thing, but it's next to something. A toad, it looks like.
What are that? That's like toads? Bears?
Mhm.
I can't really tell, like, they're half off screen. I can only see their legs. Yeah, like no toad looking thing. I don't know.
You want to try to get it? There's like 3 pieces up there.
Yeah, if you can... I said, I don't know how combat works, so I guess we could. Do you want to do a quick save or something, just to make sure we don't like die here by accident, and then we're gonna end up walking
Back
into...
up a little bit. Quick save it. There we go. And I think if I... Nope, that's map. That's a stocking. That changes the control. There we go. So now I can control each one individually.
Nice.
Yeah, I think we should send Hor to try to get it.
Send her. Oh, you can send people individually. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's why I said I can now control each one of us individually. Dang it!
Yeah, as I said, send
She's
her.
in combat. Dang it.
That was an immediate combat trigger.
I know how combat works.
Ah, it's coming to murder us.
I know. I'm trying to get her off the tutorial. There you go. Okay. She's right now.
Is it turn-based or is it like Final Fantasy where it's like always moving? It's
No,
just
it's turn-based.
okay. That's convenient.
I think we're
I don't know if it
gonna.
was one of those weird, crazy things where it's always moving and you just have to always make sure someone's doing something.
I think we're going to try to relieve. Let's see. Reduce speed.
I myself
chance
don't
of
want.
hit. Let's reduce chance of hit on him.
What? Go, any of my shots go percent based. Go for the highest chance of hits. For me.
No, okay. And Proton, okay. Doesn't look like the percent changes any. So I'll just do a straight attack. Oh, you hit him.
Yeah, just not.
Nice.
His armor's down 50%. It looks like.
Okay. And
I think
oh,
looking at
wow,
you.
he missed you. Wow, nice.
Lucky miss. Horseshoe.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the percentage changes anything. I guess we'll just attack. We don't have any more V. Okay.
Embarrassingly, Third Eye completely misses the toad.
And she'll move up. And we'll try.
Yeah, combat's definitely interesting.
Oh, we need.
Like a little bit of Banner Saga.
Yes! She hit him! Awesome! That means he won't hit us as often. Awesome. Oh, he took
I
a
thought we
weapon.
should.
What do you want to do?
Oh no. Keep attacking it. I was gonna ask, is there an option for run? Or do you have to stay engaged?
I'm guessing you could go all the way up here and run.
You know, not that we should, but I wonder if it's an actual thing we could do.
I don't know if that's like a run or if that's just like the edge of the universe. I think that might just be the edge. I think once you're in combat, you're in combat. So do you want to move closer or attack?
Probably just attack.
Okay, just straight attack.
Yep.
Nice hit. Another one?
Yeah. Just keep pounding on.
Awesome. Very nice. One more?
Yep.
Oh, wow. 3 hits in a row. Okay, we're going to swap for a weapon. Because she got another weapon that can actually do a little bit more damage. If she can hit him.
Yep, you missed.
No. Okay.
Now, I don't know if I completely agree with that or not, but I mean, when you're standing next to something, I don't agree with this whole physically missing physical attacks.
You're gonna shoot, precision shot, reload.
Yep.
Shoot.
Just to keep normal shooting, just normal shots.
I mean, you're doing pretty good at that.
Mm-hmm. Just consistency. That's all I can really do.
Good hit on her part. That's a great hit. We're actually gonna beat this thing. And then she missed.
Look at you dodging!
Oh yes, got a hit. Okay, you gotta reload or you gotta swap. You choose.
Reload.
Okay. Normal attack.
Yeah.
And you killed it. Awesome. We can loot its body.
I'm gonna mount that hat on my wall. Loot. Loot containers.
I'm gonna get us back into follow mode. And since you killed it, I think you should get the first dibs at it. Ooh, assault rifle.
I guess I'll take the assault rifle.
Okay. Junk, junk, and junk.
Nice. That means we can. Ooh, and that junk's worth $11. Toad tongue.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just grab all the junk.
Okay. There we go. And then let's deck your character out.
Loot those containers.
I want to deck your character out with a little weapon if you are okay with that.
Nah, I'll keep me with the pistol. I'll just hold on to the assault rifle.
Okay.
I don't really have.
You do know you have secondary weapons, right?
Just keep me with the pistol. If you want the assault rifle,
Oh, we
over
found a
the...
repeater unit.
Nice. Repeater unit.
Okay.
We got 2 more loot boxes to go, or 2 more loots to go. Who was that? No, the corpse.
We found a new location on the map.
Huh.
Corpse.
Royal Nomads Camp.
What's this? Oh, some more papers.
Nice. More logbook stuff.
Okay, let's read that real quick.
Dried blood making it even the date illegible, but one line can still be read. Who is Matthias?
Who is Matthias?
Yeah, that name seems to be ringing bells. I had a hunch when I saw that name earlier. I was like, that name's gonna be important for some odd reason.
Mm-hmm. I think that's everything in here.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we go to the next cave, and I guess we'll probably find another toad and then some more pages.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
How are we doing on time?
53 minutes.
Okay. We're still good for a little longer, I guess.
Yep. Try this gate. Dang it.
Chain link fence blocks. Oh, God. At least you're alive still.
Yep.
I don't know how much damage you took, but hopefully you're okay.
Oh,
12 points of damage to the leg now.
Constitution is your life. CRN.
Oh, Constitution. Gotcha. You need to get patched up, or are you gonna be okay?
I just realized I know where the assault rifle came from. We're gonna give it back to her, okay?
Okay. Gotcha, yeah. And she's walking around with this big club.
Or it's actually a wrench or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we could have just given her the heavy and you keep the assault rifle if you really want.
Nah, I'll stick with the pistol. I said I already got a skill point for it, so I mean.
go.
He says wrench.
I was like, why doesn't she have an assault rifle? And I was like, oh wait, the frog took it.
I'm sitting, exactly. I'm just sitting there like finders keepers after we killed the frog.
Uh-oh.
Guess we don't have a choice. Sense. We got the leg, right?
Yep.
Nice.
You want to ask
Roger.
what a synth is? No, Roger? Roger?
No, just Roger. Unless you want to ask, but I mean, common sense tells me what it is.
Mm-hmm.
What?
We got
I
one
thought
of the,
we got the tougher.
we got one of the receivers
I know, but I
as
thought-
well.
I know, but I'm thinking. I thought we were supposed to report back to the ranger. I thought that was our
Receivers
thing
are
here.
your receivers high priority.
Okay.
So now we have these 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Well, we got places to go, people to meet.
Yep. I think I accidentally closed out the radio. Oh, onwards.
you just pulled the plug.
Forward.
Nice.
Go back to the wasteland.
Hey, you leveled up. You leveled up.
Did I?
Yeah.
No, I'm just so. Oh no, I am. How do I level up? It looks like I should be able to level up.
Yeah, you have 65 XP over your XP count.
Yeah.
It's not flag, is it? I don't know what flag would do, but...
No, flag is for the quest. I do recall there being some weird thing with how you level up. I can't remember what I have to do. So,
It's not.
how do I level up? Whoop! There you go. I figured it out. Just had to check in with the radio. There you go.
Interesting. Nice. Now you have stuff you can do.
We could actually repair the toaster if you want.
Nah, I'll do it. Unless you want, I get the skill and find out what it does, but...
I don't get it. I have computer science. I should relatively be good.
Use toaster repair on any broken toasters you come across in your travels. You never know what you might find inside. Okay.
There we go.
So I guess you find loot whenever you repair them. You're going hardcore level 2, huh?
Or if I go level 2, I get the level 2 for junk driver.
Yeah.
But what I
Junk
really
driver.
want to see is... Nope, I didn't get any attribution points though. I guess these are my attributions for Apple.
I think so. Unless it's like Fallout where you have to actually convert skill points into them, maybe, but I don't know.
Okay, well,
Unless it really is like a true tree.
Let's go check out that toadstool. That also allows us not to have to remember how to get back here just to check out a toadstool. That's not the toadstool. It was actually just the map. No, that's not the map.
It was on the first
we're
cave.
good.
It was that first cave to the right.
No, I want the local map. Can I not?
He just wants the eye.
Cave entrance.
I think it's in the bottom right. I think. Guess on the bottom right.
No, cave entrance, top right. We go up and around. Right here.
Let's loot that last cave.
Yep, here it is.
I should be like crawling with like things that want to kill us now.
Toaster needs repair. Well, guess what? I can repair it.
Unless it's like a level like 10 toaster or something.
I'm confused on why I can't interact with the toadstool.
I guess unless it's like a level like 8 toaster or something, but I don't know why. Maybe you need like tools, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. Well, we tried. I have level 2 toast right now.
But I want my toast!
I think that's gonna be the end of the stream, though. We survived one.
I guess I'll get my toast next time.
We survived one.
Right. Yeah. Dream Team 1. Toad 0.
Oh, come on. Trying to, like, line people up here is not...
And then you turn one of the other two that gotta like follow around.
There we go. And there's a little crew.
I guess that works. Dream Team!
Bye-bye, everyone.
I guess until next time.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Good night.